Nerf Crossbolt review. Included is the blaster with detached bow arms, elite darts, a 12-round straight mag, and the instructions. Attaching bow arms. There's a nice confirming snap when it's in place. I'll go over the external features, show you it firing, and then give you my opinion. Starting with the front, there's no in-strike attachment nozzle, so you cannot put on barrel extensions. Up top is an iron sight, which corresponds with the rear iron sight here. This gray piece is the priming handle. Pull that back and pull it forward, and now the blaster is primed. This is actually a band-powered blaster. This band here is powering the blaster. If you cut that, your gun's not going to work anymore. The bow arms are not technically functional in the sense of a real bow arm because it doesn't actually flex. This is a rigid piece of plastic. What is powering it is actually this elastic band here, which gives a little bit. Down here is an in-strike attachment rail, so you can put on anything under here. The trigger is a little sloppier than what I'm familiar with and what I'm comfortable with, but it's really nothing to really complain about. I am mentioning it because it is kind of gritty. The grip region is absolutely worth complaining about. It's a thumb hole stock, which means it has a big giant hole back here for your thumb hole stock. I'll get to that issue in a second, but the thumb hole is very small. It's alienating to large hands, and I know I'm an adult, and I know a lot of kids view my videos and say, you're way too old to be reviewing this, these are not designed for adults. And I understand that, but it's very easy to design a product that's for kids, but an adult can use very comfortably. This is not a good product, in that sense at least. The distance between the back of the thumb hole and the front of the thumb hole is just too small, so when I go in to grip the blaster, my wrist rams into this region here. It's not comfortable, it's very difficult to get a good grip on it, and the bottom of my palm is actually striking down here. This region is just too small. And there's a lot of bulk in the front of the area here, so if you like to hold your trigger finger outside the trigger guard, that's just firearms training, it's very difficult to get your trigger finger into the trigger in order to fire, and it's very cramped in the trigger unit as well as the grip. Too long didn't read, this whole region is just too small and cramped. But moving back, here's an access door, and there's actually another access door. This rear one allows you to clear jam darts if you're using crappy darts, and this I assume is a mechanical access door. I have not yet had a jam with this blaster, so I haven't had to open this to fix a jam or anything like that. Moving back, here's a rear sling point along with this one, so if you want to have two sling points here, it will sling around your back. The bow arms might jut into your back, but you can still sling it. Now to the magazine well. This is a bullpup style blaster, which means the magazine is behind the trigger. Firearm people do this because it extends the length of the barrel without extending the length of the blaster. This has a rather long barrel, if you want to say that, and it's a very, very little blaster. That's the advantage of a bullpup. And on a string power sled blaster like this, this is a pretty good design, the bullpup that is. This little button here is the magazine release. When you push it, the magazine drops and you're able to reload it and then put it back in. I've only shot this blaster about 200 or 300 times in the last few hours, but this magazine has dropped out of the blaster about 15 times already. This magazine release is just not a very good design. I'm not really sure if I have a lemon or if it's just a poor design. I have not yet opened this blaster, but this thing just keeps dropping out and it's obnoxious. It also takes a very strong thud to get it actually in there. If you just try to gently put it in, it's not actually clicked in. So to operate this blaster, you pull back the priming handle and you push forward. That is primed and you have one dart loaded, and then you pull the trigger and it fires once. You have to do that every shot. $70, duplicate 70, 71, duplicate 71, 70 feet per second, rather consistent. As you can see by the chronograph readings, it is shooting about 70 feet per second. This is rather consistent, especially for a band-powered blaster, which I'm definitely surprised by. But to put 70 feet per second into perspective, that is exactly what every other elite gun is shooting right now. This is not shooting better or worse, it's just on par, on line with everything else on the market right now. So now to my opinion of the blaster. I want to preface this with saying I was actually really excited for this blaster. The pictures looked really cool. I still think it looks like a really cool blaster, but in practice, I don't like it at all. The biggest gripe is the ergonomics in many aspects here. The grip is just too small. It's a very cramped area. I can't fit my hand comfortably because the bottom of my palm here and then my wrist is striking into the blaster. It's very difficult to hold. You can't really hold it as a pistol because of that, because your wrist is grabbing back there, and come on, let's get real. This is way too little to shoulder like this. Moving back, the magazine release is uncovered. I've dropped this magazine quite a few times, first because it just doesn't actually click into place, and if I'm holding it, it'll just randomly fall out, and also because I rest my shoulder right here when I'm firing, which means I pressed the magazine release on accident when I'm just shooting. That seems like a huge design flaw, and I just don't understand who approved of that design. Putting your body against a magazine release. I don't understand. Then getting to the priming mechanism. I have really no problems with the top feeding blasters or the top priming blasters such as the Retaliator. It's a pretty fast blaster. But when I try to prime it and there's a freaking bow arm in the way, it's very difficult, it's cumbersome, and I have to chicken wing my left arm out here to prime it. I'm shooting like this and I feel like a dork. I'm already a dork, but I feel like a bigger dork. A pump action or maybe like a pullback like a long shot would be more ergonomic. So down to it. What do I like about the blaster? The looks. What do I dislike about the blaster? Everything else. The function, the magazine release, the grip, priming the blaster, holding the blaster, operating the blaster, pretty much everything is just simply bad. I don't think this blaster was well engineered or well thought through. I don't know if Hasbro is just trying to jump on the bow bandwagon with Katniss Everdeen pumping up archery and all of that. It's a cool blaster to look at if you're a cosplayer and you don't actually perform and you don't want to defeat others in Nerf wars. It looks really cool. It is somewhat interesting to use. It's just obnoxious to do this. If you're a larger person or an adult, I can't recommend it just based on the comfort. If you're a child, it's going to be even more cumbersome to try to prime the blaster, and to everybody who wants to put it against their body, the magazine release is just going to get in the way. Overall, I can't honestly recommend this to anybody. If you want something small that primes on the top, a Retaliator is a great option. The performance is the same, and it doesn't have all of these terrible design flaws that the Crossbolt has. I know I'm being overly critical. That is the point of this channel. I cannot recommend this blaster, but if you're interested in purchasing one, there is a purchase link in the description box below. Thanks for watching. I'm already a dork, but I feel like a bigger dork.